everyone. On tonight's episode of UX Speaks, we will be discussing mental health. Our speaker for today is Dr. Vilona Annunciation, a mental health professional with a passion for creating awareness and battling the stigma associated with psychiatry. Dr. Vilona combines her medical expertise with her extroverted personality to dispel the myths and prejudices against psychiatry. A confident speaker, she is commended for her lucid explanations of mental health concerns and enjoys interacting with a variety of people in her journey as a mental health advocate. In her spare time, she is an avid reader, an enthusiastic driver, loves baking, and creating works of art. Please put your hands together for Dr. Vilona Annunciation.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vilona, and welcome to UWork Speaks. This was a very wholesome introduction that we just got about you, and we are really glad that you're here with us today to talk about mental health. So, how are you doing today?
Hi, Kiara. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on Yuvak Speaks. Um, Today, I'm doing really well. I'm just back from a super stretched holiday in Goa, and I was really chilling for the last 11 days. So, I'm very excited to come back to work.
Okay.
I was missing work towards the end. So,
Oh,
and yesterday I had like a whole marathon OPD with almost 50 patients.
okay.
So, yesterday was really busy. Today is
Hmm.
a little more relaxed.
All right.
And yeah, so I'm
Okay.
really excited.
Even I went to Goa, just by the way.
Oh,
Yes,
nice.
yes, just for a short vacation. So, yeah. All right, so we'll just jump right into the questions. So, the first
Sure.
question, yeah. So, the first question I have for you is what, according to you, would you consider to be the leading cause of mental health issues in the current day and age?
Okay. So this is a question that comes up to me very often in the clinic, right? Because a lot of times when people come to me and they're talking about concerns that they have, and I explain to them what's happening, the diagnosis that I'm thinking of, and the treatment strategies that I'm looking at. The first question that they come up with is, "But why is this happening? Like, what is the cause for this,
Hmm.
right, doctor?"
Yeah,
That's the question
yeah.
that comes up. So for this, you need to understand how mental health actually um, is a function of a number of different things. Okay,
Hmm.
like the mental health or ill health that we have is a factor of a number of different things. The first thing is our genetics. So,
Hmm.
what kind of genes we are blessed with? Like from our mom's side, from our dad's side, what are the genes that come into us and make us who we are, right?
Yeah.
So, if, say, my dad had a streak of getting angry, or my mom had a streak of getting very worried,
Hmm.
some bit of that would be passed on to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And genetics is one of the biggest and the most rock solid determinant of mental health, in the
Hmm.
sense that we cannot do anything about the genetics as
Yeah,
of now,
yeah.
right? Because it's
Hmm.
there, it's
Yeah, it's just
already
there.
there in
Yeah.
you, and that's like a confounder completely. We can't do anything about it. Beyond genetics, there are a number of other factors, like, for example, your development, the environment in which you grew up,
Hmm.
the kind of experiences you've had while you were growing up. Because, for example, you and your sister have grown up in the same house, right?
Yeah.
But both of you would have grown into very different individuals
Yeah.
based on the experiences that you've had,
Experiences.
based
Okay.
on the personal reaction that you had to those
Hmm.
experiences. So, for example, when there is an exam coming up, some students choose to study harder, some students choose to cry, some students choose to go and pray to God,
Yeah.
some students choose to go and catch their parents and say, "Sit with me,
Yeah.
otherwise I cannot focus."
Hmm.
So it's each of us that have our own personality factors, and this also contributes to mental health.
Hmm.
Okay, so when we look at mental health, we're looking at a contribution from genes, we're looking at a contribution from development, growing up experiences, we're looking at contributions from personality, and we're also looking at how our basic chemistry in the brain works.
Hmm.
So it's a number of factors that come together, and it is again a number of these factors that come together to ensure that we stay in the perfect state of mental health.
Yeah. Okay.
So it has to be a combination of all of this.
All of it. Yes. All right. That's good. Okay, so I have a lot of friends who don't like taking medication. Like, basically, some of them feel like you just get reminded, like if you're taking a pill, you're reminded that, oh, I'm taking this pill to cure myself of something. So you're reminded that you're sick. So, what do you suggest? Like, what coping mechanism do you suggest to a patient who does not want to take any medication?
So honestly, even I have a lot of friends who hate taking
Yeah.
medication. And I think that is their biggest ground,
Hmm.
that as a doctor I would tell them that you need to take your
Yeah.
medication. um, so I also see a lot of patients who either skip medications, don't take them
Hmm.
properly, or somehow just forget that they have to take medication. So
Huh.
that happens very often.
Yeah.
Um, what I do is at the start of treatment, at the start of, before I give out the first prescription, I make some time to talk to patients about why I'm prescribing medication. So a lot of
Hmm.
times, if they have understood the concept and they have bought into the reason why I'm prescribing medications, they're a lot more willing to consider it.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I tell them is, if you don't want to take it, that's absolutely okay. That's your choice.
Hmm.
Okay. Because I am not going to come to your house and force feed
And
you
yeah,
medications to make sure that you're
exactly.
taking it, right?
Hmm.
So it has to be commitment from your end. And if, for example, there have been patients who come to me with, say, a concern like procrastination or not being able to focus, or say
Hmm.
somebody who has been smoking up too much and wants to stop but doesn't want to take medication, right?
Hmm.
So these are common complaints that come to me. But if I talk about not taking medications, then I tell them, what is your plan? What are you going to do about it?
Hmm.
Right? So sometimes they want to go for therapy, sometimes they want to try other strategies, say
Like,
maybe a lifestyle
yeah.
modification,
Hmm.
like moving to a different place or changing the kind of friend circle that they hang out with, or whatever, some kind of
Hmm.
lifestyle change, or maybe a new job. If the previous job was very stressful, maybe changing the job or something.
Yeah.
So I tell them that they should try that and give themselves 3 to 6 months to see if things are improving. Okay.
Okay.
And if things don't get better, then come back to me, but come back with the idea that they're committed to the process of treatment.
Hmm. Okay.
Because without commitment, it's not going to work. So they have to agree to that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes they agree to it and still there are gaps, like they forget, or they're not able to
Hmm.
take the medicine on time. So then
Yeah.
we try and work together. Like, for example, if I have a tablet that has to be given, say, twice a day, okay, and they are skipping the morning dose, then
Hmm.
what I do is I try and adjust it so that I can give just one dose in the day and tell them, set an alarm and take that tablet,
Hmm.
you know. So it
Yeah.
becomes easier for them to manage it. And
Okay.
they also support and cooperate with this. It also helps if, like a family member or a friend takes
So just
responsibility
remind them. Yeah. Yeah.
to remind them. Correct.
Yeah.
Just tell them that, okay, this time,
Hmm.
just take it, kind of a thing. So that is another strategy that we use. But more often than not, because I work with a lot of adult patients and patients who I believe should have the freedom to decide whether or not they want to take the medication, I keep that as an open option. And I tell them, that if you don't want to take it, come back and talk to me.
Hmm.
We'll discuss and we'll taper it down the right way, rather than just, you say that, oh, I don't want to take it, and from tomorrow you just stop it.
Hmm.
Because very often, if you are on a particular dose of medications, it's slowly built up to that dose, right? You start with the smallest dose and then gradually you
Yeah.
increase it till you reach the correct dose for that person.
Hmm.
Now, what happens when you go from the full dose to zero is that the body will experience some sort of discomfort or
Yeah.
restlessness or uneasiness. And
Hmm.
automatically the reaction is, oh, I'm addicted to the medicine. It's not that.
Hmm.
Matlab, if you're taking a medication for blood pressure and you stop taking it, your BP is going to shoot up as a
Yeah.
rebound.
Your body will
Yeah.
show
So
some kind
it's
of
some kind of
reaction.
sign
Yeah.
that there is something going wrong. So
Hmm.
the best way to do it is to gradually reduce it, the way we gradually increase it. Okay.
Hmm.
And if you follow this process, there is no question of addiction. So when it comes to medications, I try and keep an open mind and discuss with patients as honestly as possible and tell them, listen, it is your choice, but please come back and tell me what's happening so that we can take a call. I also
Hmm.
tell them to come back and tell me honestly what they've smoked, drank, how much they have
Yeah.
used, so that I
Huh.
know how much I have
Yeah.
to adjust my
Hmm.
medication.
Hmm.
So that's another reason why people don't take medications. It's because Doc, I went out with my friends and I knew we were going to have a drink, so I skipped your medication.
Hmm.
I'm like, very
Okay.
nice, you take
Nice.
alcohol and you don't take my medicine.
Huh.
So that also
Okay.
happens. But yeah, I think once they are committed to the process, and once with discussion they are comfortable. I think a lot of it has to do with the trust and the comfort they feel with me. If they feel
Yeah.
comfortable, then they decide that they want to go ahead. Of
Hmm.
course, I'm sure there are those who haven't felt comfortable and have gone to other doctors,
Hmm.
but I try and make sure that I'm giving them that space where they can take a decision about their medications.
Yeah.
In fact, in the past this has happened where I've said that, okay, if you don't want to take medicines, let's just call it a halt here, because there's no sense in you coming every session, paying money for my consultation, me spending that time in that consultation if you're not going to take the
Hmm.
medication. Right? Then rather than that, I would, you decide what you want to do and come back whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
So that works really well, because then they take a breather for, say, maybe 3 months or 6 months, and then they say, okay, I'll come back after that time. And when they come back, they are far more committed to the
Hmm.
process. Then it
When they're
works.
just mentally ready to just do it, like to commit,
Yeah,
that's when they
yeah.
come back.
Or sometimes the situation gets that bad. Like I recently had a reach out from a patient who was seeing me regularly through the pandemic.
Hmm.
He started consulting at the beginning of the pandemic, and he was seeing me regularly till about June. And then there was no news from him for a while. And I always optimistically think that if there's no news, that means it's good news and the patient is
Yeah.
doing fantastically well.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
need to worry
Huh.
about the person. So he reached out in November and he said that he was doing well for the 3-4 months after that. But then the depressive thoughts restarted and he started feeling suicidal ideas, and that really scared him. And so he came back.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's also that the symptoms become worse and then they come back for treatment, which
Yeah.
is also one
Hmm.
reason why they agree to then take medications, because nobody wants to be in that space where they are contemplating, ending their life, or where they're thinking about something, doing something really bad, or having terrible meltdowns. So those when there's like a breakdown in that manner, they definitely come and reach out to people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So, have you been doing like virtual online therapy now with COVID and
Yeah.
everything? So, how has that been like different from the physical when you're like right in front of your patient? You can gauge much more easily, I think. So, what are the pros and cons of the virtual therapy?
So I would definitely say that the shift from offline to online consulting was very, very easy for me. And it was, in fact, very
Okay.
seamless,
Hmm.
because I already had a number of patients who were abroad who would consult me only for therapy and not medications, because I'm not allowed to prescribe outside India. So just therapy sessions that we would do online. And I would really enjoy that. So I already had like my online process completely figured out, and
Hmm.
how to go ahead with it and everything. The shift was not very difficult. In fact, I think there was no interruption in my OPD at all. I just
Hmm.
shifted, like patients couldn't come to the clinic, they would ping me on WhatsApp and I would give them an online slot. And so it just
Okay.
shifted very seamlessly. I really enjoy it because I think it gives me a lot of flexibility to work from home. I have two kids, one is 9 and
Oh.
one is 7. So they are so happy that I'm home,
Yeah.
and they're already telling me like, why are you going to start OPD? Why are you going to go
Oh.
to the clinic? So I'm sure, that's one huge bonus for me.
Hmm.
The other thing is I absolutely love traveling. And before the pandemic, I would travel every month. And I used to always think it would be so nice if I could see patients from, like last year I went to Barcelona and Ibiza. It was so nice if I could see patients from
Wow.
Ibiza and, live there for 10 days. And out of
Yeah.
those 10 days, maybe 2-3 days do consulting. So I think in that sense, I'm pretty excited about how this is going to go over the longer term, because I definitely want to continue online consults. But I also see the flip side where, when I'm dealing with child patients, where I'm dealing with elderly patients, people who are not able to express exactly what's going on in their mind, um, it's a little difficult for me to then gauge what's happening. And if there are any side effects related to medications, like for example, if I see the patient in the clinic, okay, and because the medicine, if their hand is trembling or if they're sweating a lot, I'll be able to see that. Yeah, in on the phone, on the screen, it's a little difficult to gauge that.
Hmm.
So that becomes a problem. And in
Yeah.
fact, that became a problem with one of my elderly patients who was not improving on the medication. So I finally told them, bring her to the clinic, because I cannot understand what's happening. It's a little difficult right now. So then they brought her to the clinic for that one consultation, and that's when I realized, oh, this is not working, and I need to change the medication completely. So
Okay.
that that kind of physical cues that we get from the patient being right there in your clinic is definitely something that I miss on online. Also, I think online gives people a lot of flexibility. Like I know a lot of my patients would complain about the fact that they would have to travel. Like
Traveling,
patients
yeah.
coming from Andheri or Borivali who had to come to Thane would say that,
Tani.
doc, I spend like an hour to reach your clinic and then an hour to go back and to talk to you, it's like 10-15 minutes. So they're like, for that 15 minutes, I'm
Hmm.
wasting so much time. So a lot of them have become a lot more regular in the pandemic because
Hmm.
it's just a 15-minute slot that they have to block,
Yeah, and
right?
it's
And the
online.
rest of their day goes off uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can be anywhere when they're doing it. Of course,
Yeah.
right now, most of them are home, but
Hmm.
even from work or wherever they are, they
Hmm.
can comfortably do the appointment. So it's definitely a lot more comfortable, a lot easier. For me, one big advantage of the online thing is that offline, when people come to my clinic, I have a real difficult task of getting uh, people to I don't know. I think it's something about me. They just love talking. They won't stop talking.
Okay.
So I always end up sitting later in the OPD. Like if my
Okay.
OPD is supposed to get over at 5,
Hmm.
my staff knows that ma'am is not going to exit till 6 or 6:30.
Hmm.
So it's always been like the OPD extends and extends. Somebody comes and it's always been like that. But
Hmm.
online, because it's very tight slots, so 5 to 5:15. Then 5:15 I have another call. So I
Yeah.
have to cut
So
that
you
call.
have to cut the
So
call.
it's a lot easier. So I think that way it has become a lot more structured, and it has also
Hmm.
taught me how to be that clear when I'm speaking to the person face to face.
Hmm.
Um, so that shift has happened for me. So I am all in all, I'm in favor for the online thing. I hope it continues.
Okay.
Ours is, of course, because it's medicine. It depends on the government guidelines.
Hmm.
The government had not permitted telemedicine till the pandemic, and it's
Okay.
only in the pandemic that they created a new set of telemedicine guidelines which allows us to practice, and even those are constantly revised. So initially they said certain medications couldn't be prescribed, then they reduced the number of medications that couldn't be prescribed. Now almost all can be prescribed except for a few, so we have to also follow the rules and regulations.
Hmm.
So you know hopefully, if the regulations permit, I would like to continue the online consults.
Okay. So now you've not yet started going back to the clinic.
No, I have. So
You
through
have.
the pandemic, I have been going to the clinic as well,
Okay.
but I've reduced it. Like I would work Monday to Saturday earlier.
Hmm.
Now I only go on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday is completely online.
Okay. Okay. That's great.
So it's alternate days that I've kept.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in the lockdown, so many people talk about having anxiety, depression, like depression more than anything. Like they're just confined to the walls of their home. There's nothing to do. You're so restricted. So, how do you think we can curb like all of these feelings, even like overthinking, indecisiveness, stress, all of these negative feelings? How do we curb them?
So I think one of the things that we need to understand is that negative feelings are not all bad.
Hmm.
They help us look at ourselves and others in a very different light. Okay, like for example, if talking to somebody makes me end up feeling really bad at the end of the conversation, right, it's an opportunity for me to examine what it is about this person's conversation. What
Hmm.
is my relationship with this person? For example, if I have somebody in my life who always calls me up and says negative things to me, okay, uh, it is up to me to examine what is the value of this information that this person is giving me,
Hmm.
or what is the value of this person in my life, like how important is this person to me, and then make decisions about how to move forward. So I would say don't look at negative feelings as bad. Look at negative feelings as learning experiences. Okay,
Hmm.
look at it as what is this feeling or what is this experience trying to teach me.
Hmm.
Um, someone very rightly said that I either win or I learn. So it's not lose. So if there's a bad thing that's happening to you, it's not a loss, it's a learning. So
Yeah.
it's something new that you're learning from that experience, and something that will teach you for the rest of your life, probably, how to manage or how to change the situation for yourself so that you are in a better position. Okay.
Hmm.
um, I, for myself personally, because I see patients a lot of times, my friends call and offload on me. Then it's the family
Rant to
that's talking to
you.
me. Yeah, rant to me, and then there is family, and sometimes it gets very, very overwhelming. So one is I started setting very clear boundaries about who is allowed to rant and who is not allowed to rant. So I'm very clear about it now, and
Hmm.
I make it very clear to the person that right now I'm not in the space to listen to this or to take
Hmm.
this. And I think that has helped make it a little easier for me, because otherwise I would just mechanically be on the call and listen to the person going on and on and on and not contribute anything to that, which
Hmm.
I don't think makes sense. So one is you need to start setting boundaries with who you allow to impact your mental health and peace of mind, and who you don't. So people who are really important to you, people who are extremely um, part of your inner circle, could be people that you allow to play with your
Hmm.
emotions, so to say. Okay. The other thing is there could be close people who, in spite of the fact that they're close to you, are not willing to change their situation, but still want to call you and grumble. Okay, so then in this situation also, you need to learn to draw a line and say, okay, this is not happening,
Yeah.
because I am here, I'm ready to support. But if you're not willing to change or make any, modifications to what's happening to you, it's not going to work anyways. You
Yeah.
can't just keep going through that cycle of grumbling and grumbling and grumbling. It doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
So at some point of time, draw that boundary. Make time for taking care of yourself. So my go-to is vacations, and this pandemic has completely taken that off.
Oh.
So during the pandemic, what I did was I spent a lot of time cooking. I rediscovered my love for art, and I had been working with a lot of painting and mandalas and Zentangles and everything, which was good fun. Um, but now, when I took this vacation, I made it a point to just tell everybody that I'm not available. So
Hmm.
I was not available for the whole 9 days that I was there in Goa. And I specifically did not choose a vacation destination where I haven't been before, because there is no pressure in Goa to go out and see things.
Yeah.
Like Goa, you can just laze. So
Yeah, you
what
can
I
just
did was
chill.
I just carried books, and I carried my painting stuff. And I mean, there were days when we just put a mat on the grass and just lazed with a cup of green tea, and it was just fun. So I think each one of us needs to find what is it that is good for our
Hmm.
mental health. And a lot of times when I say that exercise is something that helps, people come back to me by saying that no, but when I go to work, I walk almost 1.5 kilometers. But
Hmm.
that's not a happy walk, is it? That's a
Yeah.
very stressed walk.
Yeah.
That's always a rushed walk.
Hmm.
So it has to be a happy experience, whatever you do for your self care, whether it is exercise, whether it is some hobby or some activity that you enjoy doing, it has to be done with the mindfulness that I'm doing this to enjoy myself.
Hmm.
So that is an important component of that, and you cannot be doing that if you're on a call, or if you're talking to somebody, or if you're busy responding to an email or chatting or something like that, right? So it has to
Yeah.
be something that you choose and keep separately for yourself. Sometimes at the end of a tiring day, even a nice relaxing bath is good enough self-care,
Hmm.
right? So it's important that you find ways to take care of yourself. And I think if we start doing these basic things, like understand who is going to be part of our circle, who is allowed to have an impact on my mental health, set boundaries with those that we are not comfortable with impacting our mental health, and focusing a little bit on our self-care, then we will learn to live with the emotions that come, whether they are positive, whether they are negative. Because the idea is that we can't always have only positive emotions, so we have a mix of both. But when it is positive, we enjoy the positive with the understanding that this will end. And when it is negative, we bear the negative with the understanding that this is also going to pass.
Hmm.
Because eventually it comes and
Everything
goes, it comes and
passes.
goes. So
Yeah.
so we need to just be able to, be in that moment and just let it go.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right, so I think we should end this session now. So, do you have any last words of advice for everyone?
So I would just like to end by saying that we have just off the last maybe 5 6 years that I'm seeing a trend where people are starting to take care of their body, and that's amazing. I love that people are taking so much people are doing so much research about the kind of content they are eating, and how they can make sure that their body is built not only to look good but also to stay fit, and not to develop any diseases or illnesses at younger ages. Working in the medical field, I've seen the impact that ill health can have on the body, and I feel that we've still not started looking at mental health from that perspective. We're still looking at physical health, and we're starting to do preventive stuff for physical health, but we're not looking at mental health so much. And that's something that I'm worried about, because our mind controls our entire body.
Body.
So even behaviors like eating, like for example, I have patients coming to me for compulsive eating, okay? But very few people who are looking at, say, eating healthy will look at the mental health perspective of that. Like, what in my moods, what in my emotions can trigger binge eating? What
Yeah.
can trigger, increased carb cravings? So this entire experience that we are having in terms of the focus on physical health, I wish that all of you also start looking at your mental health from that perspective. The generations in the past have not. They are paying the price today, and we are a generation that is seeing the benefits of taking care of your mental health, and are also beginning to understand that. So I hope that in the next few years we can see a definite shift towards people taking good care of themselves, both mentally and physically. I think
Okay.
that's my message to everybody.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Vilona, for being here with us today. And you gave us some really lovely insights about mental health. And we really look forward to having many more sessions with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, Kiara. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Have a lovely day. Bye.
You too. Bye.